Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guest today is Brian Glick from Revival Theater Company. Our first in-person session here in studio, and
19 months.
Exactly, yeah. Everybody who comes in, I pity our poor listeners who listen to this show, because the first couple of minutes is all, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you in person.
Yeah,
and it's great, so great to be back. But
that's right.
That's just the way of it.
It is.
We just keep on. Every guest is a revelation.
That's right.
And one step closer to, hopefully on our way back to normal.
That's right. Yep.
So we were chatting before we rolled tape. Of course, you were a part of Brucemorchestra now close to a month ago, but we're still thinking about how much fun that was. And it was Revival that provided the soloists. And congratulations again on both the imported talent and the homegrown talent. Well, all of it kind of homegrown.
Yeah. No, it was a wonderful evening for the orchestra coming back and for us. And I don't think you could ask for a more perfect evening. The weather was just right, so it was a celebration for sure.
It really felt like, okay, now we are on the way back.
Yes. Yeah.
And you've got your first show on your own.
Yeah.
Coming up this weekend, the beginning of the 14th through the 17th.
Yep.
And this is the Judy Garland vehicle, End of the Rainbow. Tell me about that.
There's many Judy Garland, shows out there, but I think this one, End of the Rainbow, is the definitive. I think it's based on mostly true situations. Talk of the Town was her sort of comeback performance in London, and the last thing she did before she passed away. After a string of bad and humiliating performances for her in the U.S., which is why she had to go to England to sort of get away from the negative press,
her reputation.
Exactly. And in London they were like, oh, Judy Garland, they didn't mind at all, so it was a fresh start.
And this was when?
1968.
Okay. And
she passed away about a little less than a year later, and around Christmas 1968, so yeah, definitely less than a year. And so this, the course of several days, this play shows us, how she prepares for that performance and the trials and tribulations she goes through battling addiction, and her latest husband, Mickey Deans, but also celebrates her performances. We see her, doing what those of us who know of Judy Garland or saw her on TV or have listened to her, what she does best, and she was the ultimate one-of-a-kind performer, So the show really looks at that whole time in London for her. So.
What led you to choose this show?
Well, Cameron loves Judy Garland, who's the co-founder. We've talked about doing something that has her in a storyline for some time. And, we try to look for something that is a rare gem, that no one knows much about, and might be a smaller cast. And this is definitely that. It's a unique presentation in that it only has 4 actors in it, and the only person who sings in it is Judy.
Okay.
So it's very different, especially for us being a musical theater company. The model is unique. So
you mainly do larger main stage shows with a good-sized cast.
That's
so
right.
This is definitely a little bit of a departure.
Yeah. So it's really a play with music, but it's definitely musical theater at its finest when that happens. But the first 10 minutes is there's no music, so people might go, okay. It's a musical. When's the music come in? And it does, very in a bold way. But so I think that's exciting to share a unique, unknown story about someone well known.
Tell me who's in the cast.
So the Judy Garland is Janelle Lutz, who's from New York, and she's played Judy. She's done this show 3 times prior, and I know is in the process of developing her own Judy show. And there's not very many Judys, people who can play Judy Garland, so we had to go out of town to get her. And she was also on board 18 months ago when we were doing it. In fact, she hasn't done anything since. So she's truly picking up where we left off, and she's incredible. And then we have Jim Vogt, who is a local performer who plays Mickey Deans. and David Morton, who's done theater around here for years, Brucemorchestra and TCR. And then a new actor who had to replace the character of Anthony, which is her accompanist, Trevor Martin, who is coming in to play the role, also out of town from New York. So it's a wonderful group of familiar faces and new faces.
So you said that Janelle has played this role several times and obviously has studied Judy Garland to the point that she's kind of coming up with her own show. What did she have to say about Judy and about that maybe you didn't know or that was news to the rest of the cast? Well, what insights, I guess, does she bring to this?
When we sat down, I said, look, there are things that I'm going to want us to do to shape this, but you know her better than anyone, and especially when it comes to the mannerisms, the body language, the things that she was known to do on stage. That sort of, I guess, in our mind's eye is iconic, Judy. And so I really leaned on her to work those things in as I shaped it. So we really have, it's been a great working relationship because she hasn't come in and said, well, this is the only way I know how to do it and this is how it's going to be. It's not been that way at all. We've been shaping it together. And if I have her do something, she usually is one to kind of give me a look like, I don't know. I said, okay, so what do you think? And we kind of go, okay, what are some tools we can pull out of the Judy box that she would do here? And the thing with Judy is her professional career and private career were all over the place. I mean, there were highs and lows. And so it was like, okay, when she did this performance at Carnegie Hall, for example, what kind of, state of affair was she in? Do we think she was pretty high at that point, or was she in her sober stage there? There's all these sort of discussions that I have between the two of us about where we think she was mentally and physically, at certain trajectory throughout the piece. So, yeah, she's taught me a lot. I don't certainly go into being a Judy know-it-all, that's for sure.
What's the one thing you learned about Judy Garland in this process?
I think the one thing we learned that we know now more than ever, just because we know more about addiction, and especially in Hollywood and those who are stars, is the personal struggles they go through. We see one side of a performer, and when they're performing, and we think, oh, this person has this amazing life, and they have all this talent, and they probably have all this money, and they're just living this high life. And it's really not that for a lot of them. And for Judy, she had no money at this point in her life. She really had no money, and you discovered that in the show. She can't even afford to pay her hotel bill. She has friends, famous friends, helping her pay for things. So realizing that she had a very difficult and challenging life, and people started taking advantage of her, which, we now look back on, and certainly we've taken measures in the professional world to, try and be more aware and conscientious of that. But, that she was a human just like all of us and wanted love in her life and wanted to be around her kids. And it was very hard for her to do that because a lot of her contracts, that she signed used her, took her money, took her time, and it was all about just pushing her on stage and making sure she got through it and cared very little about her personal life. So
we've talked a lot about kind of the downside of Judy Garland's life, and certainly this takes place literally in her final days. So we know the end is coming and it's not going to be good. Yes. But the music has got to be a highlight and uplifting and really take you out of the sadness and make you happy. So what are some of the musical highlights?
Certainly during the low moments, she was funny. She was a character, and so there's lots of moments where you're just that are quite funny. There's Somewhere Over the Rainbow. You have the trolley song from Meet Me in St. Louis. You have Come Rain or Come Shine. These very iconic, well-known Carnegie Hall, which is their most iconic performance, at the Palace type performance numbers that are the most nostalgic, that as soon as people hear them, they're going to start singing or start humming. They're going to know. And those musical moments really transform. So we go from, what's unique about the piece is we go from being in this hotel room, which looks like a play, and then the whole set kind of opens up and reveals a band, a jazz band, and the lights shift and her costume shift, and she's performing. And the neat thing to sort of add to that is we have cabaret seating at CSPS that sort of create that immersive experience for some of the audience. So you immediately are sort of taken back and forget all the drama that's going on in her life and just enjoy those moments. So I think that's exciting.
The show is End of the Rainbow, October 14th through the 17th at CSPS with Revival Theater Company. Tickets
Yes.
still on sale?
They are. Tables are almost gone, so if you'd like a table seat, go and hurry and get those, but there's plenty of seats left.
And those tickets can be had at...
revivaltheatercompany.com or Arts Iowa, which is the Orchestra Iowa box office.
Okay, so then you can buy online through artsiowa.com or stop by the Orchestra Iowa box office. They are handling the ticketing.
Yes.
All right. Brian Glick from Revival Theater Company. Well, good luck with the show.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Yes,
and
thanks.
come back next time, and we'll talk about the next thing in the pipeline.
Next season. That's
All right.
right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Brian. You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio many weekdays at 10:20, or download the podcast, watch or listen on your own schedule at kcck.org/culture, or however you get your podcasts. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.